What's up, psychedelic investors? My name's James, and you're watching The Psychedelic Investor, your number one news source for psychedelic stocks and everything MindMed. Today, we're going to be discussing my 5-year price targets for MindMed, MMEDF on the American OTC market, MMED on the Canadian NEO market, and MMQ on the Frankfurt Exchange. And just as a brief note, in this video we're going to be using MMEDF, and all figures will be in American dollars. And because this is all going to be speculation, the entirety of the episode is going to take place in
the speculation zone.
MindMed, for those of you who are not super familiar, is a mental health care company working to alleviate the devastating mental health illnesses such as depression, addiction, anxiety, and ADHD, and more with psychedelic-inspired medicines, piggybacking off of decades worth of positive research showing that substances like LSD, Ibogaine, psilocybin, and MDMA can treat mental health illnesses better than current methods by an order of magnitude. MindMed is, in my opinion, by far the most advanced psychedelic medicines company that retail investors can buy on the public market. So far, they have 4 flagship Phase 2 clinical trials. And as a quick reminder, when looking to invest in this space, or any biotech company for that matter, the most important thing to look at is how well the company's clinical trials are progressing. These are medicines companies, so the most important long-term factor for their stock will be if their medicines work. It seems like common sense, but I see so many people just glossing over their clinical trials as if it's not the most important factor for investors. So this is what we're going to be looking at for creating their price targets. And a quick reminder, at the end of one episode per week, the Psychedelic Investor will answer one of your questions left in the comment section from the previous videos. So if during this episode you have a question, please comment it below. It can either be something related to this topic or something completely random. And when deciding which question to cover, we will pay extra attention to what you guys want to see most. So if you see a question that you want answered on air, please like said question. Today's question is, so everybody's speculating about a Nasdaq uplisting soon because they are 1 year old now. What is your opinions/thoughts about it? So that's a good question, and we will answer it at the end of the video. Before we dive right in, if you find this content entertaining and valuable, invest in the Psychedelic Investor with your like and subscribe. Over time, you'll see your investment grow as we continue to bring you the information that you need to know before investing in the psychedelic medicines space. Enjoy the episode. Hello, psychedelic investors, and welcome to
the speculation zone.
Reminder that what is said in the speculation zone is just that, speculation. If you disagree with anything that I say, please let me know why in the comments. In this video, we are going to look at 4 different 5-year price targets for MindMed and assign them a level of probability. The 4 cases will be the bear case, the neutral case, the bull case, and the super bull case. To start, we're going to look at the bear case for MindMed stock price in 5 years. As I've talked about in my video, The Risks of Investing in MindMed, all shareholders and potential investors in MindMed need to realize that this is not a sure thing. Yes, the company is very exciting, but nothing is certain. Like I said in the opening, the most important factor for the long-term value of the company will be if their clinical trials are successful. And though there is a solid amount of data being produced from groups like MAPS that support the idea that psychedelic compounds have many therapeutic benefits, MindMed has yet to show this in their own clinical trials. There is no reason to think that their trials will fail, but frankly, we're at such an early phase, Phase 2 trials without much data being released yet, that we can't really say that their treatments will work with any level of certainty. And this means that there is a real possibility that all of their trials could end up showing that their groundbreaking techniques to treat mental health issues either don't work, or at least they don't work better than current methods or alternatives from competition. If this is the case, MindMed will go to 0. And I know that this is scary, but we need to understand that in some senses we face a binary choice. Either their medicines will work and the stock will pop, or they don't and the bubble pops. So this is my first price target for MindMed in 5 years, $0, under the bear case scenario where their clinical trials just don't work. But how likely is this? Well, it really is hard to tell since we don't yet have any solid data on their trials, but we do have data from other groups that have tested similar, albeit somewhat different, solutions. And the wider literature regarding the use of psychedelics to treat these conditions is very positive. So I would have to say the likelihood of this scenario is fairly low. Of all their flagship trials, none of them are shown to work. All 4+ are shown to be failures. Well, I will give that roughly a 5% chance. So in my opinion, there is a 5% chance that in 5 years, MindMed's stock price will be 0. And that is my bear case price target. Moving on to a less terrifying scenario, albeit still not great, is our stagnation thesis, or our neutral case scenario. In this scenario, MindMed will have some successes in their clinical trials, but they'll continuously need to rejig their treatment regimes to counteract unforeseen problems. The company will still be exciting, but the slow pace of scientific improvement will be holding them back. We will still be talking about the potential for psychedelic medicines to treat issues like ADHD and anxiety, but the reality that these drugs are not perfect and there is still lots of work to do will set in. Maybe in this scenario, MindMed will have managed to get a single treatment to market, but it's not much more effective than current treatments or a treatment done by other psychedelic medicines companies. Or maybe they're still just a couple years away from commercializing. Psychedelic medicines may start to feel like fusion energy, always just a couple years away, but never quite good enough for right now. If this is the way that history is destined to be written, then MindMed's stock price will probably be in a similar range to where it is today. I think a range around $2 to $6, which would give the company a market cap of between $660 million and $2.6 billion, would be reasonable. This would still be a very respectable market cap, and MindMed would be able to continue the research and hopefully bring a drug to market in the future. And look, I find this scenario much more likely than the first. There are often many bumps in the road when it comes to scientific research, and us MindMed investors need to understand that this could be a very realistic scenario. So look, I might get a little bit of hate for this, but I'm going to put the probability of this around 40%. Remember, science moves slowly, and while we are all super excited for MindMed's potential right now, before we have much data, we need to be prepared for the possibility of a long period of stagnation. And look, guys, I could have, and honestly I was tempted to, put the probability of this scenario lower, but I think that when investing, it is better to err on the side of caution, so that's why the number is so high. Moving on, getting into the good stuff that we've all been waiting for, the bull case scenario. Where do I think MindMed will be in 5 years if their clinical trials go well? And to be clear, this isn't if all their clinical trials go well, but, just a few of them. If MindMed can develop, let's say, even 2 of their treatments that are effective in treating mental health issues that we essentially have no treatment for, then us investors are going to be very happy. For example, the annual market for drug sales to treat depression and ADHD are each at just under $10 billion a year. And this is with drugs that, don't even work well and have hosts of negative side effects. On top of that, especially with our current global crises, this number just keeps skyrocketing. So, if MindMed can effectively develop affordable treatments that actually work to solve these issues, and they are competing with companies using, in some cases, amphetamines that don't even work well and can cause addiction, well, MindMed could wipe the floor with these companies. Let's say that in 5 years, MindMed is raking in 5% of these sales, or a revenue of $1 billion. I do not think that it would be unreasonable to give them a 10x sales to price ratio, as it would still be a quickly growing company that is changing the world. So that would be putting the company at around $10 billion in market cap, which would be around a $30 price target. And honestly, I think if they were hitting those revenue run rates, this would probably be a very conservative price target. And I think that they could hit this even if they were selling substantially less than $1 billion annually. What is more important for their stock price in 5 years than the amount that MindMed would be selling at that time would be their future run rate. So if in 5 years, let's say they have begun producing their medicines and are selling only, let's say, $100 million per year, but they have a clear path to scale that up to $1 billion, I would still probably rate them at $30. And that would be a 30x revenue to price ratio, which admittedly would be quite high, but I think the growth potential and the revolutionary factor would justify it. So just how likely is this $30 price or $10 billion market cap price target? Well, honestly, based on how well the research has been progressing in this field and how exciting many of the studies have been, I think the probability of MindMed essentially 10xing in the next 5 years is considerable. I'm going to put it at roughly a 50% chance for now. So this would be quite good for us investors. But of course, it can always get better. And now we will move into my Super Bowl price target. In this scenario, over the next 5 years, basically everything goes well for MindMed. They will sail through their clinical trials using LSD to treat anxiety, depression, ADHD, and suicide headaches, 18-MC to treat addiction, and other treatments that are currently in phase 1, like using an MDMA LSD mix, proprietary compounds that we don't yet know about, and DMT. If all trials show fabulous results, it will be clear that MindMed is the future of mental health treatments. Financial media will talk about them ad nauseum, and they will be every YouTuber's favorite stock. In this scenario, their value in 5 years will come more from their future potential than their current sales, as they will still need to ramp up production. In other words, they'll be in a similar position to where Tesla is today. They will have proved their technology and they will be in the process of ramping it up. Yes, they will have lots of competition both from legacy pharmaceutical companies and from other modern companies like Compass, but it will be clear that they are the leader and the market will be theirs to lose. If this is the case, then predicting a stock price or market cap would be very hard. The stock would not only be affected by their current and near-term revenue, but also by the wider population's expectations for the company. And after going back and forth, I settled around a $33 billion market cap or around a $100 price target. MindMed estimates that the annual drugs market they are trying to disrupt is around $30 billion per year and set to grow rapidly, so if they really do have something special with their psychedelic treatments, then this super bull case could be within reach. If they could acquire, let's say, 10% of this, a $100 target would be justified. And again, they wouldn't necessarily need to have 10% market share in 5 years, but rather have a clear path to achieving a market share of 10% in the years to come. How likely is this, though? Well, unfortunately, I think both the stagnation and bull theses are much more likely. Getting a 10% market share would be frankly unheard of and would only work if their medications were step changes above the competition. While I would love for my Super Bowl thesis to be borne out, it would require everything going right for MindMed over the next 5 years with no setbacks and no delays caused by the clinical trials not going exactly as they hope. There are always delays in science, so to hope otherwise, frankly, would be foolish. So I'm therefore giving my Super Bowl thesis only a 5% chance of coming to pass. And if this does happen, well then, boys and girls, we should probably start planning locations for Boat Week. A couple quick things to note on all of these price targets. First, they are very rough estimates. MindMed is currently a company without revenue, and everything relies on how effective their medicines will be. It is therefore very difficult to create models based on anything other than speculation, which is why this episode took place in the speculation zone. Also, keep in mind that these estimates are set to change as MindMed progresses through their clinical trials. The confidence rating I gave each prediction in particular will change as the company is either successful or not in each of their trials. Something else to keep in mind when looking at these price targets is the level of competition that MindMed will have in this new industry. Already, there are lots of players trying to find new ways to treat mental health, though at the moment, their only real competition is Compass Pathways and Atai Life Sciences. If this remains the case, then the context in which MindMed will be operating will be fantastic. This could change, however, and I could envision a scenario where rather than 2 or 3 companies bringing forward next-gen treatments, there are around 50 or 100, including traditional manufacturers, who decide to jump on the psychedelic wagon, such as Pfizer. If that is the case, it will come down to whose treatments are the most effective or who can produce them at the cheapest cost. And at the moment, we have no way of predicting who this would be. There's also the possibility that MindMed could be acquired by a larger company like Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer. Also keep in mind that all the stock prices in this video are just my opinion and do not constitute financial advice, as I am not a financial advisor, just a retail investor like you who thinks they've spotted a massive opportunity. And now is the time to answer a question left by a fan on the last video. Before I do so, however, if you have thought of any questions you want answered in the next video, please let me know in the comments. And if you have made it to the end of the video, it is your opinions I care most about, so leave a smiley face, or better yet, a mushroom emoticon in your questions so that I know you have watched till the end, and I will pay extra attention to your question. So the question from the last video that was the most liked came from Meor. So everyone is speculating a Nasdaq uplisting soon because they are 1 year old now. What is your opinion / thought about it? Hello Meor, and great question. As far as MindMed being public for 1 year, honestly I don't think that will affect the probability of them being accepted or not. What will matter is whether or not they meet the Nasdaq's uplisting requirements, which have to do with share price, proper bookkeeping standards, etc. Something I do want to say, however, is that if you are an investor in MindMed, you need to be a long-term investor. That is why in this video I did 5-year price targets, because realistically, if you want to invest in this company, that is how long you will need to wait to see the beginnings of the potential for this company. And for this, all that matters is whether or not MindMed's medicines work. If they work, then it won't matter if they get accepted this month or in 2 years. They will eventually, and the company will be worth oodles of money. If they don't work, then even if they're accepted this month, in 5 years, the company will still be at 0. I hope that answered your question, and I hope that you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, tell the algorithm by leaving a like and subscribe so that we keep making this content. I'm James from the Psychedelic Investor, signing out. I'll see you next time.